Have you ever been praying for something for a long time? You know what you want, you've prayed about it, you've asked God, you believe God can do it, and yet you're still waiting. Maybe you're waiting for a relationship or the business or more money or healing in your body, maybe a breakthrough or the next level in your life. Today, I want to give you something to think about that may completely change the way you look at your waiting season. Okay. There may be a correlation between your character and your weight. And before you get offended, hear me out. I'm not saying that God hasn't, answered you because you are a bad person or you've done wrong or, you're not worthy. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? I'm not saying that you have to be perfect for God to bless you. I'm definitely not saying every delay is God's punishment because I don't personally believe that he punishes us. I believe that we have free will and some of our actions bring about consequences that feel a lot like punishment. But what I am saying is this: sometimes what you're asking God to give you requires you to become someone different before you can sustainably carry it. Okay? Because the life that you're praying for cannot always be built by the identity that you're currently operating from. Let me say that again. You cannot consistently create a new life from an old identity. And this is where I believe a lot of us get stuck. I know it's where I used to get stuck. We want a new life, but we're still thinking like the old mind. We want abundance, but we're still making decisions from fear. We want healthy relationships, but we're still responding from rejection, and past traumas. We want wealth, but we're still emotionally attached to scarcity. We want peace, but our reactions are still chaotic. And we want confidence, but we're still waiting on somebody else's validation and approval in us. And then we say, God, when are you going to answer my prayer? Like, where are you? You know what I mean? Like, where are you at? Are you going to do it? That's when all that doubt comes in, right? But what if God is not ignoring you or punishing you at all? What if God is simply preparing you for what you're praying for? What if he's preparing you for the answer? The identity transformation that it takes to really steward it. Think like that person, be like that person. Romans 12:2 tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Notice that it doesn't say wait for your circumstances to change and then you'll be okay and you'll think different and you'll be different and you'll show up different and then you'll have a whole different life. It doesn't say that at all. It says the transforming, renewing, new way of thinking and operating. When our beliefs change, it says to be transformed, by the renewing of the mind. And in other words, the transformation starts on the inside of us because our thoughts create our emotional patterns, and your emotional patterns influence your reactions. Your reactions, your behaviors, your habits, all of those things are a part of your character. All of those things are a part of your identity. So if you keep responding to the life that you're experiencing day by day with the old version of you, you're going to keep producing the same results. When we continue to show up the same, we continue to produce the same. So we continue to live the same. That's why I say trying to create a new life from an old identity is almost impossible. And I believe that it also validates the idea that in order to create that new life, you're creating from a new way of thinking. I believe it also violates what I'm going to call the law of faith when you don't do it that way. Because faith isn't just, I believe God is going to do it. Faith is becoming the person who can, live in alignment with what you say you're believing God for. And if you say you believe God is your provider, but every financial decision is driven by panic and overwhelm, and you're thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure this out? What you're actually embodying isn't faith at all. You're saying that everything is on you. And if you say you believe God is leading you, but every time something doesn't happen on your timeline or in your way, exact way you're thinking it should, you become anxious, angry, discouraged, and overwhelmed, then that's really not embodying faith. What are you embodying at that time? You're really embodying somebody who doesn't seem to have a close relationship with God. If you say you believe you're worthy of healthy love, but you keep accepting behaviors that don't look like the healthy love you're talking about, that violates the boundaries that you've set and the dreams and visions that you see when you think of love, what identity are you operating from? And this is where I want you to kind of not necessarily beat yourself up, but just become aware, right? Because awareness is powerful. Awareness is so powerful. Your reactions are giving you information. Your emotions are giving you information. The thoughts even that we have is giving us information. So what we need to do is actually take that information and see what's working for us and what's not. The information is showing who you've been practicing being up until now. But you gain the power to begin to shift that, to begin to say, we're going to do something different here. Because if you want to experience something different, you have to start practicing different results. You have to start practicing different behaviors and different beliefs even. So let me give you 3 things. Let's do something fun. Let me give you 3 things you can start doing today to begin shifting your identity in alignment with what you are creating with God. All right. Number 1, I want you to catch your old identity in real time, in an instant. I mean, in an instant, like boom, as soon as it happens, I want you to hear it, see it, and react to it. So today, pay attention to your reactions. Don't judge them, just notice them. When something happens that you don't like, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Who am I being right now? How am I responding right now? Right? Am I afraid? Am I responding as the woman who has been rejected in so many relationships? So rejection showing up? Am I responding like the woman who was told to be quiet and to keep my mouth shut? So I'm showing up powerless, like my voice doesn't count? Am I being the woman who believes that there's never enough? So I'm overwhelmed by the price of what I have to buy or the price of what I have to pay? Am I at lunch saying I'll just get the salad because everything on the menu is priced at a point that I think currently is expensive? Or am I being the woman who trusts God? See, awareness is going to give you the opportunity to choose again, believe again. I tell my community all the time, I tell the ladies in the Becoming Method all the time, we can believe again. We can choose to believe again. In an instant, we can choose to believe again and create a new belief and now live off of that. All right. So number 2, I want you to ask yourself, who would I be if I already believed that me and God has already created it? So not that I'm waiting for it to show up and, oh my God, I wonder if God is going to do it. But from the standpoint, from the posture, from the positioning of the moment I ask God for it, me and him are creating it in my life. Right? So I want you to come from that place, right? This is one of my favorite embodiment questions and exercises because I think it really helps us focus in. So what would I do if my prayers were answered? Ask yourself that. What would I do? Who would I be if I already believed that God was bringing my answered prayers? How would she think? How would she speak? How would she handle disappointment? How would she respond to money? How would she respond to bills? How would she walk into a room, right? If God already opened the door and I already stepped into the dream life, how would I be responding? All right. And number 3, stop using your current circumstances as evidence against God. Because that's what so many of us do. You are currently using your current circumstances as evidence against God of saying that God is not going to do. This one is huge. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean that God isn't working on it. Doesn't mean that everything isn't shifting on the earth to get it into alignment, to actually bring it from the spiritual realm into the physical realm. Your current circumstances are not necessarily the reflection of the final destination, the final answer, the final say that God said, right? Stop thinking that God must have said no because it hasn't happened in 2 weeks. Stop saying, see, it's never going to happen for me. Maybe God doesn't want me to have it, or maybe I'm not meant to have it, or maybe he just doesn't have these types of things for me. Instead, I want you to begin practicing saying and believing, I don't see it yet, but I refuse to allow what I see to determine what I believe, because that's faith. Practice saying, I don't see it yet, but it is moving. because everything is aligning with what I believe, right? I want you to practice thinking from a place of it's showing up and looking for evidence that it is on its way. Because faith isn't denying reality. Faith refuses to make current reality the final authority and the final say, the final answer. And this is why I teach faith embodiment, because when the wind blows, we can't blow with it. I don't want you to spend another year simply praying for a new life. I want you to become the person who can actually live it, who can actually create it with God. This is how it's done. So ask yourself, start today. Ask yourself, who am I becoming while I not wait, but while I prepare for what me and God is creating together? That's the invitation. That's the invitation that I have for you today. It's becoming the person who lives like God will, not the person who's believing and hoping that he will. That's the work we do in the Becoming Method. I hope that helped you out today. If so, drop me a comment below and let me know. All right? I'll see you on the next video.